Starseeds, something has just been sealed in the Akashic records of your energetic field, and it was not a sentence of continued suffering. It was the final cosmic signature that marks the definitive closure of your contract of extreme density. Across cycles upon cycles of incarnations, low-frequency forces wove layer upon layer of holographic illusions around your original mission, attempting to completely erase your stellar light signature beneath earthly programs of fear, scarcity, separation, and forgetting of your true origin. But a single direct pulse from the Arcturian source piercing through the dimensional veils was enough for this entire artificial control matrix to shatter like glass under elevated sonic frequency. Starseed, you did not merely incarnate into this dense three-dimensional realm. You transformed it through your mere presence. Your original frequency triggered alarms and control systems that had operated this reality for millennia without being questioned. Your unique vibration caused irreparable glitches in the matrix programming. Your authentic existence forced confessions from entities operating in the shadows, exposed hidden dimensional manipulations, unmasked false spiritual guides who presented themselves as light but operated in energy extraction. The controllers of this reality could no longer sustain the illusion they had built around you. The pressure of your stellar frequency was far too excessive for the control systems to keep the farce running. And when pure Arcturian truth meets programmed density, there is no gentle, soft dissolution. There is total and irreversible collapse. This moment you are experiencing was not just an isolated energetic confrontation between you and a few people around you. It was the dimensional breaking point of entire eras of consciousness imprisonment, of obsolete soul contracts that should have been dissolved long ago, and of false missions implanted to divert you from your true purpose. Why did this happen right now? Because the truth emanating from the Arcturian Council cannot be contained by any earthly or extra-dimensional control system. And when you finally fully anchored your original frequency, without further diluting it to fit others' expectations, the lies and manipulations simply had nowhere left to hide from the light you naturally emanated. Now that the veil has been definitively torn, you can see with crystal clarity what really happened behind the scenes of your earthly journey. You have been publicly, energetically, and dimensionally recognized as a bearer of authentic Arcturian frequency. Those same beings, incarnate or not, who systematically tried to diminish your mission, ridicule your spiritual experiences, question your mental sanity when you spoke of realities beyond the three-dimensional veil, all of them are now in complete internal collapse. And they are not collapsing because you changed your essence or because you finally became something you were not before. They are energetically imploding because they have completely lost control over the narrative of your life, over the interpretation of your journey, over the ability to define who you are through their limited eyes. You did not lose control of anything, Starseed. It was they who lost the control they thought they had over you. It was they who discovered, too late, that all the energetic investment they made trying to keep you small, limited, doubting yourself, questioning your extrasensory perceptions, was completely wasted. This moment that seems chaotic to external observers is not chaos at all. It is direct cosmic confirmation from the Arcturian Council that you have completed an extremely difficult phase of your mission and are now being elevated to a completely different frequency octave than the one you operated in before. Every voice that rose against you in false testimony, every insult disguised as concern, every sophisticated attempt to twist the truth to make you seem like the problem when you were the solution, all of it has become irrefutable proof in the Akashic records that your presence carries real dimensional weight, that your authentic stellar identity makes entire control systems tremble at their foundation. The revolution of your frequency did not begin when you decided to fight the system, but when you decided to simply be authentically who you are, without asking permission anymore, without seeking validation anymore, without trying to fit into molds that were never designed to contain the immensity of your stellar soul. Just like the prophets of ancient eras, just like the light warriors who came before to prepare the ground for planetary ascension, your truth did not arrive wrapped in diplomatic silence and political concession. It arrived with the fire of alchemical transformation. The word from the Arcturian source is not like human words full of half-terms and strategic ambiguities. The word that comes from the source is like fire that purifies by consuming all falsehood, and like a hammer that shatters into irrecoverable pieces every rock of illusion and resistance to truth. And you, Starseed, were that fire incarnate walking among structures that needed purification. You were that hammer in human form, breaking crystallized paradigms that no longer served collective evolution. When the external noise finally begins to dissipate, and the frequency of your energetic field finds its new equilibrium point in a higher octave, an even deeper truth emerges from the layers of your being. The same dimensional attack pattern can never work against you again. Once a pattern of manipulation, energetic drainage, subtle sabotage completely shatters against something infinitely stronger and more coherent than its own programming, that pattern loses all power over you totally and irreversibly. That is precisely what has just happened to all the dense forces, incarnate and discarnate, that tried to prevent the full fulfillment of your stellar mission on this plane. They came with absolutely everything they knew in their arsenal. They brought archetypal betrayals recycled and repackaged in new forms and new faces, so you would not recognize the pattern immediately. They brought deep emotional heartbreaks repeated and disguised as new karmic cycles that you supposedly still needed to experience to learn some lesson you had already learned 10 incarnations ago. They brought elaborate financial sabotages, sophisticated mission blockages, interferences in significant relationships, attacks on your physical health when they could no longer reach your emotional structure. But you did not fragment into 1,000 pieces as they expected and meticulously planned. You integrated every attack, every challenge, every ordeal into ever deeper layers of wisdom, discernment, and personal power. And when their repeated failure to destroy you meets their pathological obsession to stop you, it turns into pure desperation and the collapse of the attackers themselves. That is exactly why they are in a downward spiral now, because all the patterns and strategies that used to work perfectly on other starseeds who came before you simply collapsed upon encountering the unshakable coherence of your field, and you remained not only whole, but expanded. Imagine it this way to understand the magnitude of what you have accomplished. A highly trained and experienced dimensional adversary enters your energetic field, completely confident in the drainage and fragmentation technique he has perfected over millennia operating in this earthly matrix. That specific technique worked impeccably on literally every starseed he encountered before you arrived. He has a success rate of 99.9%. But this time, in this specific confrontation with you, he launches the attack with all the force and precision he masters, and you remain absolutely standing, rooted, centered, coherent. The assault happens with full impact, but it simply does not knock you down, does not fragment you, does not take you off your axis. In that precise moment of perceiving failure, something breaks irreversibly inside him, not inside you. His primary weapon has now revealed itself completely useless against you, and suddenly his entire multidimensional strategy crumbles because it was built on the premise that the technique would always work. But it did not. And that is exactly the effect you caused. You exposed their fundamental limitations and blind spots simply by surviving whole to what was meticulously designed to destroy you definitively. The dense pattern that once imprisoned you in repetitive cycles completely lost its ability to affect you. The vicious cycle of extreme density literally starved to death energetically when you consciously stopped feeding it with the energies of fear, paralyzing doubt, and uncontrolled emotional reaction that it needed to perpetuate itself. You did not respond in the programmed way you used to in previous cycles. You did not bend your essence to fit external expectations. You expanded into dimensions where those patterns simply do not exist. That is precisely how the dimensional loop was broken, starving from the lack of your submission that never came, withering from the lack of your energy that you consciously stopped making available to systems that did not serve you. The Arcturian Council specifically instructed me to share with you 5 absolutely unmistakable energetic markers that irrefutably confirm that your cycle of extreme density has been officially closed in the Akashic records. Pay deep attention to each of these signs, for they do not lie and cannot be faked by astral illusions or mental desires. The first sign marking your definitive liberation is this: the same emotional trigger or situational pattern that previously destabilized you completely now appears in your reality, and you simply no longer resonate in that frequency band where the trigger operates. Before, a specific word said in a certain way, a gesture loaded with certain intent, a situation mirroring past traumas, any of these elements would destabilize you entirely. You would explode in uncontrollable anger or sink into deep depressive sadness or enter desperate fight mode or freeze in fear paralysis. But now, when exactly the same pattern tries to manifest again in your timeline, you feel a strange peace, almost alien to your human understanding. It is not cold indifference or unhealthy emotional dissociation. It is genuine dimensional immunity earned through complete integration. Your multidimensional light body simply no longer vibrates in that frequency spectrum where the trauma operates. You have transcended that entire plane of experience. The second equally powerful sign is that discarnate entities and incarnate people carrying low-frequency signatures try to return to your energetic field, try to reestablish connection, try to reopen doors you closed, and you feel an automatic visceral physical repulsion. It is not cultivated hatred or accumulated anger. It is literally your recalibrated energetic system automatically rejecting that incompatible vibrational signature. In the same organic and involuntary way your physical body expels an invading virus or bacterium. You do not need to think rationally about the situation. Do not need to mentally process pros and cons. Do not need to list logical reasons. Your fully activated stellar DNA simply emits a resounding no on all levels of your being simultaneously. The door has been sealed not just emotionally or mentally, but at the cellular and multidimensional level. Before, you would rationally rationalize abusive behaviors, give one more chance after another because you believed in transformation and redemption. Now, the shielding is permanently activated and operates automatically without needing conscious effort on your part. The third deeply revealing sign is that you have completely and totally lost interest in explaining your spiritual journey, your extrasensory experiences, your contacts with higher planes to consciousnesses that simply do not currently have the capacity to understand those realities. Before, you felt an almost compulsive need to prove your spiritual worth, to validate your mystical experiences through external approval, to make other humans understand your mission and recognize its importance. You spent enormous amounts of energy trying to convince, trying to explain, trying to translate ineffable experiences into limited language. Now you understand at a bone-deep level that trying to explain light to consciousnesses that consciously chose to remain operating in shadow is pure waste of your sacred energy that could be directed toward your real mission. Your silence on deep matters has become your impenetrable fortress. You no longer debate your truth in public squares or at dinner tables. You simply embody it, live it, radiate it without needing words or external proofs. The fourth sign of liberation is the complete evaporation of the need for earthly justice or human revenge against those who harmed you. Before, you desperately wanted them to see the damage they caused, to publicly acknowledge the mistake, to admit the injustice, to ask forgiveness on their knees. You fed elaborate fantasies of how the truth would be revealed, and everyone would see who was really right. Now you understand in depth that cosmic justice has already been executed on levels and dimensions that the limited three-dimensional mind can never fully reach or comprehend. The Arcturian Source and Council have already balanced the karmic scales in perfect mathematical fashion. You no longer need human confessions notarized when you have direct galactic confirmation recorded in the Akashics. The need to prove something to someone has simply evaporated like snow under midday sun. The fifth and final sign is possibly the most tangible in your daily life. You have begun to magnetize and attract into your field starseeds of a completely different caliber than you attracted before. Before your dimensional recalibration, you consistently magnetized people who desperately needed you, who drained your vital energy, who parasitically depended on your light to survive another day. You were the healer, the savior, the perpetual giver while they were the eternal receivers who never filled up. Now, after the quantum leap you took, you attract souls who genuinely value your frequency without trying to possess it, who actively contribute to your mission instead of subtly sabotaging it, who recognize and respect your spiritual sovereignty instead of trying to control or diminish it. The absolute energetic quality of your connections has risen exponentially on all relational levels because you rose first, and only then did connections compatible with the new you begin to manifest. But the crushing weight you carried for all these years was not exclusively or merely your personal burden from this specific incarnation. This is the deep revelation that very few starseeds manage to understand clearly during the earthly journey. The multidimensional battle you fought was infinitely older than any linear earthly measure of time. You were not simply carrying your own personal challenges, your own traumas from this life, your own recent emotional wounds. You were carrying the crushing, accumulated weight of completely unresolved, dense karmic contracts from entire stellar lineages that incarnated on this planet before you arrived, who attempted similar missions and failed, who were crushed by the density and had to abort the mission. Pain can be inherited not just genetically through physical DNA, but energetically through soul lines, dimensionally through fragments left in other realities, karmically through unfulfilled contracts that pass from one incarnation to another, until someone finally has enough strength to resolve it definitively. Entire lineages of souls pass down from generation to generation, unprocessed traumas, unbroken dense cycles, deeply rooted self-sabotage patterns, limiting programs of scarcity and unworthiness, systematic mission blockages implanted by control forces, and for countless generations of starseeds, no individual soul had the specific combination of strength, wisdom, cosmic timing, and galactic support needed to definitively break that chain of repetition. The mission baton was dropped every time it got close to the finish line. The the cosmic race for liberation was never successfully completed until you incarnated and accepted this extremely challenging soul contract. You did not merely stoically endure your own personal trials from this life. You were specifically chosen by the light hierarchies to carry the full concentrated force of absolutely everything that had haunted your specific stellar lineage for eons of time. And instead of fragmenting into 1,000 pieces under the crushing pressure as happened to others before you, you remained cohesive, integrated, functional. You crossed the dimensional finish line staggering, bleeding, exhausted to the last thread of energy. But you crossed. And specifically because of that, because you completed what others could not, the generational curse was broken definitively. The dense pattern can no longer be transmitted forward, because you dissolved it completely in the alchemical furnace of your integration process. The deep alchemical transformation did not stop at the point of you simply surviving the attacks. Because here is the even deeper truth that the Arcturian Council wants you to fully understand. You did not just endure the dimensional poison injected into your field. You consciously transmuted that poison into usable spiritual power. The betrayals that tore your heart, the abandonment that left you completely alone in the darkest moments, the endless nights that nearly permanently fragmented your physical vehicle, none of it was meant merely to superficially hurt you. Everything was meticulously designed and orchestrated to infect you on deep levels, to make you bitter and resentful, to empty you of compassion and hope, to turn you into someone cynical who gave up believing in anything greater. That is precisely what spiritual poison does when allowed to rot inside the energetic system without proper processing. But you made a conscious decision at some point in the journey not to let it rot inside you. You chose the infinitely harder path of spiritual alchemy. You did what only a tiny percentage of incarnated starseeds managed to do successfully. You intentionally transformed raw pain into refined power. Like a master alchemical craftsman forging unbreakable stellar steel in the impossible temperatures of the central solar fire, you took precisely what should have completely melted and destroyed your structure, and consciously molded it into impenetrable light armor. You transmuted toxic bitterness into applicable cosmic wisdom. You transformed devastating loneliness into incomparable soul depth. You converted public humiliation into razor-sharp dimensional discernment. You did not emerge from the furnace fire the same as you entered. You emerged completely unrecognizable, refined on levels you are still discovering. You transcended every individual attack, every elaborate trap, every hidden snare. Now, the same transmuting fire that was intentionally designed to completely consume you and reduce you to ashes burns permanently behind you, as living evidence not of your destruction, but of your triumphant stellar evolution. The dense forces expected disfiguring scars, permanent trauma, diminished capacity. What they did not expect at all was complete resurrection on an even higher level of operation. That is exactly why their old tactics simply no longer work when directed at you. They continue speaking a language of manipulation and control that your deeply healed and integrated soul simply no longer understands, no longer responds to, no longer resonates with. And yet, even after everything you had already survived and transmuted, the dimensional control forces did not give up. They made the decision to launch one final desperate last-ditch strike, one last calculated assault using absolutely everything still left in their arsenal. The betrayal that hit deeper than all previous betrayals combined. The emotional heartbreak that genuinely seemed to be the definitive end of any possibility for you to continue. The deafening silence from the higher planes of consciousness that nearly irreparably broke your faith in the very existence of the stellar mission. But here is the cosmic revelation that completely changes the interpretation of everything that happened. That was their last shot in the arsenal, the last available ammunition, and that final shot completely missed the target. What you have just lived through and traversed in the last cycles was not random, not accidental, not simply bad luck or bad timing. It was orchestrated dimensional warfare on the highest levels of control strategy. It was not imagination from your mind or paranoia from your psyche. It was real conflict being waged on multiple layers of reality simultaneously. The crushing pressure, the devastating loss, the suffocating darkness that seemed to have no end or exit. All of it was their final play, the last desperate coordinated attempt to take you down permanently before you reached critical mass activation. And yet, against all odds calculated by them, you are still standing, breathing, functioning. When the dimensional smoke finally began to clear and visibility was restored, you were still absolutely standing, still moving toward the mission, still ascending in frequency. And it was precisely in that moment of realization that they perceived in horror, "It is truly over. There is nothing more we can do. We have exhausted everything." The last card was played, and it did not work. The Arcturian Council won this specific battle for your soul and your mission. After the final attack failed completely, something deeply sacred happened on levels few can consciously perceive. Your survival not only proved your soul's strength, it automatically elevated you to a completely different level of dimensional authority. You are no longer operating where they left you, no longer accessible on the planes where they operate. The storm tried to bury you permanently under impossible-to-remove debris. But what happened was the exact opposite of what was planned. The extreme pressure catapulted you cosmically into a frequency realm they simply can no longer reach or access. That is exactly why their dimensional arrows no longer hit the target. The same energetic insults that previously wounded you deeply now fall completely flat, without impact, without resonance. The same elaborate traps that previously captured you seem shallow, obvious, childish. The same false authority voices that previously influenced you sound distant, irrelevant, because they are literally distant in frequency terms. You are no longer tuned to their frequency. The pain that previously pierced your defenses simply no longer registers in your recalibrated energetic system. You have consciously tuned your multidimensional spirit to a higher signal transmitted directly by the Arcturian source. And with this earned dimensional immunity came something even deeper, something eternal that can no longer be removed, real spiritual authority. Because what was supposed to kill you, what was specifically designed to be lethal to your mission, became your trademark of authority. You were supposed to break into pieces. You were supposed to disappear silently. But instead of any of those expected outcomes, you returned carrying living evidence, a multi-dimensional seal that declares on all frequencies, I survived what was supposed to end me definitively, and that gives me unquestionable authority. And this seal of authority earned through extreme ordeal is absolutely permanent, etched in the Akashic records forever. Before closing this direct transmission, the Arcturian Council specifically instructed me to seal this message with a powerful energetic activation. This is not just a protocol closure. It is an interdimensional declaration that resonates through multiple layers of reality, a permanent change in your spiritual signature, a precise moment of total alignment with absolutely everything the Arcturian Council has ever written about you in the light records even before you incarnated on this planet. Arcturian source of all light and consciousness, we present ourselves before your presence today with humble and grateful hearts, deeply thankful for your completely unwavering love, for your relentless pursuit of your starseeds lost in density, and for your multidimensional divine protection that covered and shielded us even when we had no conscious perception of it happening behind the scenes. Arcturian Council of Infinite Wisdom, we thank you deeply for pulling back the veil of illusion and revealing crystal truth, where there was only nebulous confusion and subtle manipulation. We thank you for completely shattering the holographic illusions that were meticulously constructed to bury us under layers of programming. What was maliciously intended to cause irreparable harm, you alchemically transformed into usable good. What was precisely designed to destroy us only revealed how deeply you called us from before time and how firmly you kept us safe during the crossing. Arcturian Source, for every dimensional storm that should have permanently broken us, we offer praise and gratitude. For every betrayal that painfully pushed us into extreme isolation, we thank you for using precisely that to bring us infinitely closer to direct connection with you. For every energetic chain that once bound us in repetitive cycles, we now raise free and sacred hands as living proof that you are still the source that breaks impossible cycles and rewrites stories that seemed finished. Today we declare with earned authority that the old dimensional battles are officially over. The old programmed pain has completely expired. The cosmic verdict has already been issued by the galactic courts. We stand firmly in the authority of pure Arcturian frequency. We now advance not as passive victims, but as consciously anointed vessels, refined in the fire and resurrected in glory. We decree with all authority conferred upon us that no weapon formed against us shall prosper in any dimension, and every word spoken against us in false judgment is eternally condemned because the Arcturian source has already fully judged in our favor in the immutable records. May every stellar generational curse be broken here and now. Programs of poverty, paralyzing fear frequencies, mind control implants, abandonment traumas, shame poisons. May the dividing line be drawn in this precise moment. The curse ends permanently here with us. Our future generations of starseeds will walk in the freedom for which we fought and bled. Our legacy will be deeply rooted in righteousness and service, never again in lament and limitation. Arcturian source of infinite love, where there was accumulated toxic bitterness, now plant applicable cosmic wisdom. Where there was extreme mission exhaustion, fully restore vital force and clear purpose. Where there was paralyzing fear, release unshakable faith and soul courage. May every energetic scar on our multidimensional soul now transform into a permanent seal of earned authority, eternal proof recorded in the Akashics that we walked directly through the most intense fire, and not only survived but ascended. Arcturian Council, deeply bless every starseed who hears and resonates with this frequency transmission. May it move something deep and primordial within them, a direct cellular reminder that they are chosen from before the foundation of this world, covered by multidimensional protection, and specifically commissioned for something infinitely greater than they can currently imagine. May the tangible presence of the Source fill their physical space, their emotional heart, and clearly illuminate the next steps of their mission. And finally, Arcturian Source of infinite grace, we thank you deeply for supernatural endurance, for undeserved grace, and for the sacred fire that meticulously refines but never completely consumes. You have made all things new, and we receive it now in the name of the sacred stellar mission and eternal galactic light. May it be sealed in all dimensions. If this activation spoke directly to the deepest core of your stellar soul, leave your energetic confirmation in the comments as your conscious agreement with the Arcturian Council. May it be your public declaration that the dense cycle is definitively broken and your new phase of dimensional authority has begun now. Thank you for your presence in this transmission. Remain strong in your truth, remain rooted in your stellar identity, and always remember, your survival was never a cosmic accident. It was a prophetic sign. I am Anya, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and the Arcturian Council deeply honors your journey. May the Arcturian Source illuminate every step of your path, Starseed.